Optimism is back to the eurozone economy thanks to the European Central Bank program of quantitative easing, which has brought back confidence, that magic ingredient which had been missing over the last few years. And yet, Greece and the possibility that Athens may leave the single currency remains as a cloud over the eurozone economy. Discussing this with me today is Pierre Gramegna, finance minister in Luxembourg, who's just back from the IMF World Bank meetings in Washington. Mr. Gramegna, what's the outlook on the eurozone as seen from Washington?
Well, for the first time, I must say, since the economic and financial crisis, the outlook for Europe is better. You know that the eurozone has been lagging behind in terms of growth in the last 5 years, but the European Central Bank forecast sees that growth is going to be 1.5 instead of 1%, so that's a good leap. And I must say that I could notice that everybody recognizes that the European economy has now tailwinds due to the quantitative easing. That's one thing. The second thing is the Juncker plan to boost investment in Europe. And the third thing, obviously, is the falling oil prices, which will have a lot of beneficial effects to Europe as a whole and to the eurozone in particular.
There's, of course, one big headwind, which is the situation in Greece. How concerned are you that the standoff between the eurozone and the Greek government could lead to a Greek exit?
First of all, it must be underlined that there's a consensus of the 19 Eurogroup members, including Greece, obviously, that the goal is to have Greece stay in the eurozone. This being said, we must realize that we have a 4-month period, a transition period that the Eurogroup has given to Greece to come up with a comprehensive plan, leaving at the same time some room of maneuver for the Greek government to come up with detailed measures how to reach the financial goals and how to reach the framework that has been agreed. Now, we are waiting for their proposals, and I've been saying for quite some time now, let's work, let's act, and let's not talk too much. But in the end, I think the Greeks must act and put something on the table so that we know if they are ready to play by the rules.
Now, it's a lot of change in Luxembourg as well. You've put an end to bank secrecy. That was a big step for a country which is so dependent on financial services as yours. There were some worries that the financial sector could shrink. Is this what you're saying?
Fortunately, that's not what is happening. In the aftermath, we realize now quite clearly that it was time for us to abandon the bank secrecy, which had become more of a handicap than an advantage. This is due to many factors. First of all, not the majority of areas of the financial sector were depending on the bank secrecy. Second, because it was announced ahead of time, the actors, the players in the financial sector could adjust to that. And third, maybe the most important, the government has embarked on the bullet train of tax transparency, which is underway right now.
And finally, Luxembourg will become president of the European Union from July. Obviously, it comes at a moment of still quite a lot of discontent with what's happening in Brussels throughout Europe. What are you going to do to address that?
Well, the challenge of presiding the ECOFIN is always large. I will have 3 subjects on my mind. One is tax transparency, where there will be a directive making sure that we have automatic exchange of rulings in the EU will be finalized, and Luxembourg supports that, and as a presidency it will be my task to go ahead quickly. Second, there's a lot of changes to be done also in financial services, for example, making sure that the banking union for capital efficiency enters into force, which means, for example, that small and medium-sized companies can find access to capital more easily than is the case right now. And third, there's a lot of things to do in terms of structural reforms for banks, which are still on the table and obviously need to be tackled.
Mr. Gramegna, thank you very much.
It was a pleasure.